Good morning, world. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker, and today is Wednesday, October 29, 2025. First off, the weather. Currently, it is raining here in Lexington, East Coast of the United States, Kentucky. Cloudy with rain, high in the upper 40s and lows in the mid 40s. Rain likely to continue up to a quarter inch. Currently, the temperature is 47 and feels like 43. The high today will be 49 degrees. Speaking of other places, Melissa to make Cuban landfall Wednesday morning, today. Expect Friday to be the next dry day in this area. Temperatures a little lower than yesterday by 6 degrees. Current weather conditions, running poor, cycling poor, gardening poor. The AQI is good. The UV index is expected to be low for the rest of the day. Today's sunrise will be at 8:01 a.m. and sunset at 6:41 p.m. Currently, it is 7:11 a.m. here on the East Coast. There have been several events that have taken place since I was last on the air with the sideshow. And just to kind of catch up, I've really been trying to distance myself mentally from all these things that have been happening. But nonetheless, as they say, the beat goes on. So let's start with the ballroom, which is where we kind of left off the last time with the sideshow. The ballroom, if you remember, President Trump had stated that his plans for a ballroom would not affect the White House, which was one of his favorite places. But since he has said that, the East Wing of the White House no longer exists. 2 presidential memorial trees have also been removed, and a First Lady Rose Garden, all monuments here in the United States. For those of you who are not familiar with the process, even though it has been mentioned in the media, when it comes to construction, and even more so when it comes to government buildings, all of which are considered to be monuments, if anyone wants to build something, quote unquote, build a structure, then there is a committee that your proposed plans, architectural designs are presented to. And that's before you even begin any demolition. And they have to approve it and then give you the go-ahead. Well, President Trump sidestepped all of that, as I mentioned in the last broadcast. He went straight from, it's not funny, but it's funny because either that or cry. He went straight from talking about a ballroom to completely demolishing the East Wing. And now that part of the White House no longer exists, and he does not even have, technically, the last time I checked, have approval for any plan designs because they have not even been presented. So all that demolition has been done without anything being presented as what would be replacing that space or what would be put in that space. And now to add to it, he has fired the government committee that would have been the ones to approve his designs. What he did present to the media was a picture of the proposed ballroom, gold, glitter, highlights, and so forth and so on. According to him, with a seating capacity of 650 people, for 650 people. To kind of give you a mental image of how this could be represented. Martin Luther King Day breakfast. Here in Lexington, that's usually done at the Hyatt Hotel. And I have participated in setting that up several years, and also which involves tables, chairs, place settings, everything else that goes with it, with cooperation from the hotel staff for the tables and chairs. And that is a process, and that usually is set for 600. So add 50 more people to that, and since that's a celebration that probably takes place in various cities across the country, that's the image you have in your mind. The Martin Luther King Day breakfast is equal to the space that would be used for the ballroom that President Trump was proposing to build. And since he had also said the existing structure, that is the White House, would not be affected, we now have a gaping hole where the East Wing used to be, which was traditionally where the First Lady conducted her business. And I don't think all that's going to be replaced in 2 weeks. So as we are now, we have time change coming up for the fall back, spring forward. Election Day, November 4th. This will be state and local government voting. And then 2026 midterms for the presidential position. So that covers so much of what's going on in the White House, or what was the White House. Venezuela boat strikes outside the country, but affecting what goes on. This was explained as attacking drug cartels trying to traffic drugs, but there have been no evidence of any drugs having been found. And so far, 8 strikes have been conducted. Excuse me. And by that I mean if you have debris from the boat, even if it's quote unquote blown to smithereens, there should be some evidence of the drugs that they were transporting that caused you to attack the boat in the first place. Okay. Whoopi Goldberg. It's The Apprentice being reenacted. If you remember years ago, Donald Trump was on the TV with the show The Apprentice. And some of those participants in that show later were part of his administration in his first term. My comment would be to all those people who are a part of the Trump administration, you are not being paid to think. And in addition, since there is no money, which is because President Trump's big, beautiful bill, as he called it a few months ago, has not been passed based on Democrats not agreeing with the changes to health care, Medicare, Medicaid, etc., part of which I've mentioned before, would be the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. They've been dragging their heels about signing off on it. So money now, November 1st is coming up, and they're already saying don't look for SNAP benefits, commonly referred to as food stamps. So now the women and children will not have food available to them, which speaks for itself. And the military, because of no money, quote unquote, has been paid by private donations from a wealthy person. I think the person was named, but the name doesn't just pop into my memory right now. But one person paid the military, I think it was $130 million. But repeat that a couple of times, and it doesn't take long for that to add up to the billions. So that in effect means the military is no longer under the government, but is under his command. So I know from my perspective here, both mentally and physically, it appears to be business as usual, because you come out your door and you go to work and you go to the store, you buy things, you get your gas, whatever else you need to make it through the day. And retail stores and fast food places are still open and serving customers. And the cities that you live in are still moving through their day. But this is that little period where, like in your car, and you have your fuel indicator, and it gets down to that point where it says time to refuel, and you have like 50 miles before you're completely out of gas, or 25, or whatever the amount is, we'll say 50. And then you'll be running on fumes. So for all intents and purposes, the government is running on fumes. And you can't just put it on the government, because coming out of the pandemic, switching to the private sector, coming out of the pandemic and people returning to the workplace from remote work, from working remotely, that was just getting back up on its feet, and the private sector, tech giants and big corporations, started laying people off. I know just a few days ago, I saw a article that said Walmart would be laying off 1,200 people. And so it has gone across the board. Big companies are laying people off by the hundreds, and other businesses unable to make it economically are actually shutting down and closing. So that's how it is on the private sector. So it's not like being able to run over there and get a job and keep things going. The government shut down. Private sector is laying people off. So the expression between a rock and a hard place has already happened. And last show I mentioned Proposal 2025. That, for all intents and purposes, folks, is up and running. So, as they say, try to get ahead of it. I imagine out of 900 pages, you could probably advance yourself and read what's supposed to be coming from this point forward and try to put some kind of block on it. But for all intents and purposes, the blueprint has been made. So, this brings us to the reason why, and for those of you that are watching outside the country, as to what's going on here in the United States, to this article, and it's from Black Enterprise. We already know that there's been two No Kings protests. October was the most recent one. So for people who are asking what they might be able to do to effect a change, or to press upon the government the urgency of money being available, and also people returning to work. So this is from one day ago, Black Enterprise Business. We're shutting it down. Coordinated economic blackout set for November 25 through December 2nd. The article reads as follows. Blackout the System has called for a nationwide boycott, urging participants to refrain from working or spending money from November 25 to December 2nd as a protest against a damaged government and economic system. In recent days, Blackout the System, a movement advocating unity across race, culture, and class, has been actively promoting the upcoming second wave economic blackout. Scheduled around the Thanksgiving holiday and extending to Black Friday and Cyber Monday, the initiative aims to become the most significant economic blackout protest in U.S. history, demonstrating that real power belongs to the people, not corrupt governments, billionaires, or broken systems. Day one, no work, no shopping. We vanished from their system, an Instagram video says. We are the economy. Without us, nothing moves. We pulled our money. They can't buy our silence. We don't grind for them today. We starve the machine, it adds. During the blackout, participants are urged to avoid working, shopping, and spending money throughout the week-long protest. The boycott coincides with the current federal government shutdown, which will suspend the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, starting November 1, marking the second longest shutdown in U.S. history after the record set during Donald Trump's first term. We are shutting down the U.S. economy strategically and peacefully by removing our labor, our spending, our financial support, forcing the system to listen, a statement on the movement's website says. This movement launched to reclaim power, restore justice, and unite people across all races, cultures, and classes. For those who can't step away from work for the whole week, Blackout the System has outlined several working strike options. Participants can choose to work to rule, performing only the essential duties of their jobs, go slow, easing their pace and avoiding extra effort, or shirk by showing up but refraining from active participation. In all cases, participants are encouraged to avoid shopping or spending money throughout the boycott period. See, there's something that we all can do when we black out the system, the video announcement says. If we got to be at work, we'll work to rule, go slow, or shirk. But we're definitely not spending money with any of you all, putting our dollars back in our pockets. Blackout the System's boycott announcement comes alongside the People's Union USA, a consumer activist movement that called for an October boycott of 6 major brands: Amazon, Walmart, Starbucks, Disney, Target, and Ben & Jerry's. This boycott continues a strategy the group has pursued since February, aimed at promoting corporate accountability, strengthening diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and curbing corporate influence over U.S. economic policy. So that's the article. And like I said, it's dated from one day ago from Black Enterprise Business section. That's it. Hashtag.